Old historical landmarks always have their own stories. Mysterious and unbelievable founding stories exist in old temples, and tales that give lessons or are sad enough remain in representative places of the region. The reason for the existence of such a tale may be to honor the mind and will of a structure or ruin when it was first started, or it may simply be to highlight the historicity and sacredness of a place. If this is the case with old cultural assets and temples in the region, what about the palace where the king, who was the country itself in the past, lived? In the past, when the king was regarded as the parent of all people, the palace where the king resided was also treated as a very sacred space. In the palace, reckless conduct was forbidden, and profanity was also forbidden. Since it was a palace that functioned as a sacred space, many strange and unique stories might remain. Instead, there are historical stories about structures and palaces within the palace, and the place where the historical stories about the foundation of Gyeongwiging remain is Seoam, the main character of the day. Seoam is located further west from Taryangjeon, located at the westernmost end of Gyeongwiging Palace. If you climb the hill where the mountain features of Inwangsun Mountain remain intact, you will find a large rock, which is called Seoam. Seoam has a story related to the founding of Gyeongwiging Palace. Gwangigan, who ascended the throne after the Japanese invasion of Korea in 1592, had the responsibility to organize the still chaotic Joseon and rebuild the palace that had been burned by the war. As a result, various palace constructions began, and in the midst of this, Gwangigan caught the eye of the current Gyeongwiging Palace site. Originally, this was the place where the mansion of Jung-won-gun, the father of Injo and the fifth son of King Seonjo, was located. However, Gwangigan saw Seoam, a large rock in Jung-won-gun's mansion, and said that the king's flag flowed, so he confiscated the site and built a palace, which is said to be Gyeongwiging. The mansion was confiscated using the king's authority, but in fact, later, the son of Jung-won-gun, Injo, ascended the throne. As shown in the tale, Seoam was called Wongam at the time and was known as the place where the king's energy flowed. Eventually, by order of Gwangigan, a detached palace was built in the space where Jung-won-gun's mansion had been located in 1617, and it was named Gyeongdukgung Palace. It was also called Seogying Palace because it was located to the west of Gyeongbokgung Palace. It was called Gyeongdukgung Palace for 140 years after its foundation, and then changed its name to Gyeongwiging Palace in 1760, the 36th year of King Yeongjo's reign, because it had the same name as the posthumous name of Jung-won-gun. After becoming Gyeongwiging, it faithfully fulfilled its role as a secondary palace along with Changdukgung and Changgyeongging. In particular, King Yeongjo loved Gyeongwiging so much that he spent half of his reign there. King Jeongjo's coronation ceremony was also held at Gyeongwiging Palace. However, in the 19th century, its use decreased significantly, and during the reign of King Gojong, most of the palace buildings were demolished for the reconstruction of Gyeongbokgung Palace. Gyeongwiging Palace, which once boasted about 100 halls, was eventually demolished, leaving only 5 halls at this time, and the remaining halls completely lost their appearance as they were transferred during the Japanese colonial period. Seoam is a cultural property that provided the cause of the foundation of Gyeongwiging Palace. Since Gwanghwaegun's words that the king's flag flows came true through King Inho's rebellion, it was well preserved without being damaged even after its foundation. It is said that King Sukjong personally engraved the word Seoam on the 4 sides. The 4-sided stone carved by King Sukjong is housed in the National Palace Museum of Korea.